Hi everybody and welcome back. We're still going on with section 2.4, another look at linear graphs, and today's goal is to understand parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's begin with the simpler of the two, which is parallel lines. So in this picture we've got two parallel lines. Note that they never intersect, at least parallel lines never intersect, and then also note that they have the same slope. Another case that you can have where you have two parallel lines is when you have two vertical lines. So just with a quick picture, say you had a vertical line here and here. These are also parallel. You know, they don't really have the same slope because both of their slopes are undefined, but we can see they would never intersect. They're pointing in the same direction. That's what characterizes parallel lines. Sorry about that, I was off the screen there for a moment. But basically, yeah, two vertical lines are also parallel. Now let's go on to perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are a little bit harder, but I got this picture to aid us in understanding the slopes, the relationship between the slopes of perpendicular lines. So in this picture, we've got this line here. I'll call this line L1, and then I'll call this line L2. So notice that the line L1 has 2 points on it, R and S. Now, note that I can calculate the slope between R and S. So the slope between R and S, or the slope of L1, so I'll just say the slope of L1 is M1. M1 would be A over B here, because the rise component between R and S is just A, and then the run component is B. So notice this is just kind of generically what the slope is of this line, A over B. Now what we do with this line is we create line L2 by taking this line and then rotating it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Notice that upon doing that we get the line L2, and notice that this vertical segment right here, A, is going to become a horizontal segment, because if you have, say, like the coordinate axes, right, these are perpendicular to each other, right, and when you rotate the horizontal axis by 90 degrees, you get the vertical axis. So just like with this little blue piece A, when you rotate this counterclockwise 90 degrees, you end up with minus A over here. So now notice also that this horizontal line B is going to become a vertical line B as well. So the reason why we're giving them the signs that we give them is because this one goes up, so we just say it's A, it's positive. This one's positive because it's going to the right. And then here we say this A in this instance is negative because we're going to the left. And then B here is positive because we're going up. And now let's go ahead, now that we've worked out the picture of L2, now let's go ahead and calculate the slope with the given symbols that we've drawn in the picture. So M2, draw that here, M2, the slope of line L2 is the rise. So we can see the rise is still B, or sorry, not still B, but the rise is B, and then the run is minus A. And now let's take a look at the relationship between M1 and M2. M1 is A over B. M2 is negative B over A. So notice that one thing is that the positions of A and B are interchanged in perpendicular lines. And also notice that this one is the opposite sign as this one. If they're perpendicular, essentially one of them needs to be positively sloped and the other one needs to be negatively sloped, or we're in this kind of case where we have two coordinate axes or two perpendicular horizontal and vertical lines. But otherwise, we're in this more general case where we've got two perpendicular lines with non-zero or well-defined slopes. So the key thing that we want to take away from this is that the product of these two slopes, so the product of the slopes of two parallel lines, so I'll write that, the product, that's multiplication, of the slopes of perpendicular lines is -1. So in other words, in this instance, i.e. m1 times m2 is -1. And we can see that's true because m1 was a over b and m2 is b over -a. Hence we can cancel some things out. We have a here canceling and we have b here canceling. All we have left is this negative sign, so we end up getting -1. So the key takeaway from all this, just to summarize, is that parallel lines have the same slope, they never intersect, and also just note that two vertical lines are parallel. And then for perpendicular lines, two lines are perpendicular if the product of the slopes of those two lines gives you -1. Or in other words, another way to put it equivalently is that they're perpendicular if they are negative reciprocals of each other. So a reciprocal means flip the fraction, and then notice there's an extra negative that it gains. So yeah, that's parallel and perpendicular lines. In the next video, we're going to tackle the topic of graphing using the x and y intercepts. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.